My Diane.
Hello and welcome to Long Live Hooky Street, the podcast where we rewatch and discuss every episode of Britain's most beloved TV comedy, Only Fools and Horses. I'm Heather and I'm joined from Denver, Colorado by my co-host and sister, Jenny. Say hello, dude.
Hello.
Today we are discussing Series 4, Episode 1, Happy Returns. So grab a Singapore sling and half a strongbow and let's get started.
This episode aired on the BBC at 8 p.m. on Thursday, February 21st, 1985, following Top of the Pops. The series got off to a very strong start with 15.2 million viewers tuning in for this first episode since the death of Lennard Pearce. The UK number one song at this time was I Know Him So Well by Elaine Paige and Barbara Dickson, and the number one movie at the UK box office was Disney's The Jungle Book. What a classic. Let's get started with some episode facts. So John Sullivan had to write this episode in 1 week to become the first episode in the series. It had been decided that Grandad's funeral would be part of the show, but they did not want to open the series with a funeral. So Sullivan said he wasn't sure what to write for this episode, but he knew that Del's old flames were always a good source of comedy. Sullivan said, I introduced Junie. She was someone who Del used to date years ago, so I was able to reveal some of his history. He also complimented the casting of Una Kirsch, saying she bore quite a close resemblance to David Jason. Repeating this from Series 3 wrap, just for context, location filming for Series 4 was rescheduled due to the death of Lennard Pearce and the necessary recasting of Buster Merryfield. The new dates ran from January 2nd to the 17th, and the studio recordings took place on the consecutive Sundays starting January 20th, with the exception of Hole in One, which was filmed in studio on February 12th. Just 9 days before this episode aired. We are back on the North Acton estate a little in this episode, with the scenes of Jason and his brother playing outside the flats. It's important to note here that at this point, where the crew were starting to struggle with shooting around these areas due to the popularity of the series now. Imagine that back in Go West, young man. Nobody cared.
Even with Rodney ripping through the streets in the car, no one cared.
Right. So I noticed a lot of fans and online contributors saying that Lennard Pearce was too unwell to appear in this episode, which we know after last week's episode is not actually true. Lennard Pearce had already passed away and this episode was written after his death. Somebody even said on IMDb that the "but she's a pretty girl" line was actually written for Lennard Pearce, which, again, we know that can't be true. It's probably just people confusing the story and the reality, since we know that Grandad is said as being ill in this episode and he's in hospital, so it's understandable to think that people think they just kept him out of this episode because he was in hospital. But there really wasn't very much time between all these events happening. He'd already died before this script was written. On another somber note, this episode aired just 1 week after the death of Eva Motley, who played Corinne in Who's a Pretty Boy. And I did not notice this until somebody pointed it out in trivia notes, but this is the first time the flats are actually called Nelson Mandela House. So,
oh god,
yeah.
I did not notice that either.
Weird, huh? Yeah. And as usual, I'll have more trivia to scatter throughout the episode, but shall we move on to the episode rankings, dude?
Yeah, sure, let's do that. So if by any chance you're new to the podcast, Jenny and I have both independently ranked all 64 episodes prior to recording, and each week we're going to reveal and compare our rankings. So we encourage you to rank along with us and let us know all of your favourites and least favourites below in the comments. So it's a lot of fun finding out which episodes people love and why, and Jenny and I do read all the comments, so please do keep commenting. We're loving reading what you've been putting so far. So, dude, what is your ranking for this episode?
Okay, so my ranking for this episode is 26.
Ooh, that's quite high.
Yes, it is. I mean,
why is that?
I think this episode is a very good standalone episode. It could slot in anywhere. I know he mentions Grandad being ill, but it could really slot in quite easily into any of the first 4 or 5 series if they didn't mention the Grandad being ill. It's got its own plot, it stands alone, it's interesting, it's well written, it's well paced, it's got a good twist. Overall, I think it's a really good, entertaining episode. And I remember seeing it for the first time on VHS, because this was prior to when we were live seeing it aired. We got the old VHS box set, and I remember thinking, I love this episode. So how about you? What's your ranking for this one?
So my ranking for this one is 37.
That's quite low.
So it's not like that high, but I think the reason for me is because this episode, for actually the reasons you've just mentioned, kind of reminds me a little bit of Cash and Curry.
Oh.
Because it's just Del and Rodney again. And there's very few episodes that are just Del and Rodney without Grandad or Uncle Albert.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Cash and Curry was the first one. We mentioned Grandad wasn't in that episode. It's the only one that he was supposed to be in it, but he wasn't, like, as in he should have been in it. And then this is the second time, and then I think that's it. There isn't any other episode of Only Fools and Horses that's just Del and Rodney.
Right.
I think.
Well,
so, yeah.
Yes, I mean,
that's why.
After Albert dies.
Oh, well, yes. But I mean, well, I won't talk too much about how I feel about those episodes. But yeah, I think that this episode is, as you said, a good standalone story. And I'm not saying the story isn't good. And we do get a little bit more about Del's character and his history. And I do agree he's got great chemistry with the actress that plays June. But I think that this episode for me is one that I watch it and I enjoy it, but it's not one that I'm like, oh, you know, that episode really got me, or that episode really hooked me. I don't feel that strongly about it, I guess, to put it higher. But by all accounts, it is still an enjoyable episode, and I enjoyed watching it for this review. That's kind of how I feel about it. A bit of a Cash and Curry, which I also like. So
yeah. Well, so the IMDb ranking for this one is number 30. So
okay,
between the
kind of in between both
the two of us, yeah. And an interesting fact I took here off the internet, and I need people to help me verify this, because so it says in the reference books that I have that this episode was the first to win a BAFTA, and I'm not sure why it says that, because I've been searching on the internet looking for through all the BAFTA listings and who won in what years, and I'm seeing kind of conflicting results, because the IMDb's BAFTA specific pages I think are a little bit more of a reliable source than Wikipedia, and I'm seeing that Only Fools and Horses overall won the Best Comedy Series BAFTA in 1986, and that David Jason was a nominee for the Best Light Entertainment Performance. So that has to be for Series 4, but maybe somebody can explain, why does it say that episode 1? Do they have to nominate one episode to submit the series for a BAFTA? Does it have to be an episode? Because it doesn't say Happy Returns anywhere in any of the BAFTA information. It just says series in 1986.
Yeah, so if anyone can help us out with that information, that would be really great.
Yeah, and I also noted here that Only Fools and Horses was nominated for Best Comedy Series in 1984 as well, so that must be for Series 3. So, yeah. So it had gotten a previous nomination. This is the first time it won. They made it sound like Happy Returns specifically in the book won a BAFTA, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, because he wrote it in 1 week. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, so if anybody can help us with the BAFTA, the way the procedures work with BAFTA nominations, that would be great. Should we go ahead and start with the episode breakdown, dude?
So, I begin this episode by mentioning the credits, the titles, because Lennard Pearce is not in them. No. And that's really sad already to see that he's gone. I just said it must have been really hard for the actors to do this episode knowing he was already dead. I wrote that.
Yeah.
That's my first note. So we start the episode in a newsagent's, a location we have not visited yet, and Rodney is in love again. And this time it's with Debbie. Debbie, we don't know anything about her. She's a new character. We've never met her before, but she's a very pretty girl. Del immediately makes fun of the way Rodney is acting around her, again, highlighting his body language and his facial expressions. His impressions of Nick Lyndhurst and also Debbie here as well. Her response to him are just very funny. That part of the episode is really funny.
I really love that impression.
So Rodney's embarrassed about that, but actually then we get to hear where Grandad is, because obviously they needed to explain his absence. Del bumps into a friend, I guess, of Grandad's / friend of the family. Del kind of knows everybody, right?
How is he?
Moaning. Doctors have been trying to take his hat off, but he wouldn't have none of it.
And I think this is one of many mentions of Grandad that we get in this episode, because Grandad obviously is still kind of part of the show at this point. He's still alive in the show, so he's mentioned several times throughout the episode, and I think it's really creative, but also a bit heartbreaking the way that they wrote him in still, even though he couldn't be there because obviously Lennard Pearce had already passed away. So I think it's smart that they, you know, make the episode about something else, because they easily could have made this all about Grandad being in hospital and Grandad being ill, but they just kind of drop in little bits throughout the episode, and I think that's a really smart way to do it, because yeah, it was a lot of things they would have been dealing with here. So we go back to focusing on Rodney's crush on Debbie, and he explains to Del.
I wanted to buy one of my adult art magazines. She might think I'm odd.
And Del agrees to help, but predictably, it turns out just to be another way to humiliate Rodney in front of a girl that he likes.
Give me one of your dirty magazines, darling, will you?
Yeah, which one do you want?
Which one do you want, Rodney?
And Rodney walks away looking annoyed. So that's the end of that scene. Any notes on that scene, dude?
Yeah, the only notes I wrote for this scene was about the credits. I put, when the viewers first saw this, like everybody in the UK would have known that Lennard Pearce already passed away. So, and the viewing figures were high. So I wonder if people had any idea what was going to happen and wondered if he was going to be replaced in this episode. So when they saw that he just wasn't in the credits, I wonder what was going through people's minds. So I'd love to hear from anybody who was around at the time and can remember how they were thinking. Like, were they wondering, is he going to be replaced? Are they going to kill him off? Like, what are they going to do? So it says here in the script that Debbie is a very pretty Cockney girl in her late teens. I don't know how you felt when you were a kid, but did you think? Because I know they say she's 19, but I really don't feel like she looks that age. And
she looks about 25, I think, the actress, if I had to put an age on her.
But we have said also that in the 80s it was a lot harder to say how old people look because of the fashion and the hair. So that's probably why. True. She obviously is young, but and probably looks younger when she's in a robe and stuff later rather than in her clothes. But
she needn't bother.
The old lady in the newsagent's granddad's friend was played by Layla Lloyd. And she has credits going all the way back to 1948 on IMDb.
Oh my God.
And this is like the first time we ever see any of Grandad's friends or acquaintances. So it's actually so sad. I just like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, she's the one at the funeral, right? Who says, "I love a nice funeral."
Yeah, same lady,
I thought she was.
So, and then the only other note I wrote was, couldn't Rodney have just not bought a magazine this one time?
No, he needed his adult art magazine.
Couldn't he just go to the other newsagents or something? I don't know. He didn't need to get it, did he? That was the only thing I wrote. I know that ruins the scene, but whatever.
No. You're right. You're absolutely right. Okay, so then we cut to straight after the incident in the newsagents, and they're walking through Nelson Mandela, outside Nelson Mandela. I think it's outside Nelson Mandela.
It's supposed to be, yeah.
Del and Rodney are strolling, and Rodney's still annoyed, and he's still harping on about what just happened. And David Jason does another great impression of Nick Lyndhurst's face here when he does the ooh face, which is very... I know you can't see it because it's a podcast, but everyone knows what I'm talking about. So then we get an exchange here, which reminded me of a Slow Bus to Chingford, because Del implies he can steal a girl off Rodney again here.
You ain't taking her out, are ya?
Dunno, I ain't made my mind up yet.
And we get kind of another callback to that later on in the episode too.
Yeah.
So I always like it when they kind of hark back to similar things that they've done in previous episodes, because I think it really makes the show consistent and it makes the characters consistent, which I think is another reason the show is so wonderful. Suddenly a car comes screeching around the corner like Rodney in Go West Young Man.
Yeah.
And a little boy goes to run out in front, but is saved by the Trotter brothers. So the Trotter brothers are always good guys. They always do the right thing in the end, unless it's, stealing things occasionally. And but they've got good hearts. Their heart's in the right place. And the kid explains,
"My mum says she's gonna kill me."
And there's a lovely, wholesome conversation here between Del and the boy. And it's something that I think people would be unfortunately suspicious of in today's society. Del being nice to a young lad and, talking to him, a stranger essentially. I think people would think that was weird now, which is a shame.
Right.
We've got to keep kids safe. I do understand why, but yeah, it's a shame that this kind of community is, a thing of the past, I think. Especially when Del gives him money to go to the, I say, Cough's corner shop. I won't say what he actually says, but giving a stranger, a little kid, money nowadays would be something that would be very much frowned upon and people would think was really dodgy. Yeah, I just wonder what you think about that, dude.
Yeah, so let's say this exact scenario happened today. You would still want the stranger to grab your kid before they ran into traffic.
Yes.
But at the same time, there are definitely people online who'd be like, "Get your hands off my child," even though you stopped them. Yeah. So I feel like in this day and age and in this climate, you cannot do good, you cannot do bad, you just can't do the right thing in the right moment. I don't know.
Can't do right for doing wrong.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think it is easier for females in the wild to interact with children, obviously. That doesn't mean that men can't help in certain scenarios, but yeah, there are definitely going to be people who are suspicious of everything you do and say around kids. This was a time when this was not seen as a bad thing to do, and it's lovely and wholesome, like you say, and let's just hop in our time machine and transport ourselves back to this time. because it was so much better.
The boy asks,
What about my brother?
at which point we see a young black kid in contrast to the young white kid they are speaking to. And this makes Del and Rodney laugh, and the audience laugh. But Del gives him some more money for his brother. And finally, we find out the reason that the boy's mother was going to kill him.
I let down the tires on that motor.
And it's the Trotter's van, which is a great little end to the punchline to the joke, which is brilliant. And Rodney seems more upset than Del about this in the end when they walk over, because Del very quickly changes to laughing about it while Rodney's annoyed.
I used to do the same sort of thing when I was a nipper. I remember me and Albie Littlewood, we let a couple of tyres down once. Should have seen the palaver it caused.
So first time we ever hear of Albie Littlewood, and what a coincidence, since he will become very important to this episode's
Yes,
plot.
that's a little bit rush writing, but whatever.
I guess it's understandable. But yeah, it's a shame we didn't get to hear more about Albie Littlewood in the future, because I don't think he's ever mentioned again after this episode either.
No, and it's actually it's such a shame, because I swear to God, this episode would have been such a high focus in Rock and Chips, because Albie Littlewood was written in, and so was June, into Rock and Chips. And I'm sure that that's what John Sullivan was planning on doing, was making the episode where he dies. I'm sure he was, but unfortunately, we lost him too soon.
No, that is a shame. Yeah, because it is, as you said, it's an intriguing backstory, and you do kind of want to know more about him and Deirdre.
Deirdre, yeah, I know, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but anyway, just to finish off the scene, we get a final exchange between Del and Rodney, where Rodney says,
What do you mean you'll get me to foot pump?
You're getting independent, aren't ya? All right. Go and get your own foot pump.
I like it.
and then Del walks away, and Rodney realizes Del has tricked him again. How does Rodney keep falling for this stuff? I don't know, but it's
I
consistent.
love the double take humor.
Yeah, he always does it. He always does it to Rodney.
Yeah, the only note that I had on this scene is I wrote that the little kid actor is really good. Like, I think he's a really good little actor. His name was Ben Davis, and it looks like he was just a child actor. He had some other small parts after this, nothing major. He had a role in The Bill, which ended in 1995. Don't think he grew up to be an actor, but as a child actor, he's good. He's got a good range of emotion. He's actually funny.
Yeah,
a good little kid actor, and that's all I had.
Then we go to a shot in the evening, and Del seems to be heading out of the door. So we haven't been in the flat or anything yet. Del's lighting up a cigar. We don't know where he's going, but he's pretty dressed up and wearing the same suit from Christmas Crackers and Go West, Young Man, I believe. He checks that Rodney's finished pumping up the tyres before he drives off in the van. He hasn't actually gotten out of the estate yet when he's going around one of the corners, and he sees the same young lad sitting on the curb. So he stops the van and goes to sit next to the young lad. And all I put was, my God, how differently this interaction would be seen in this day and age.
Yeah.
But luckily, Del is a good guy who is worried about the kid being out after dark. And the kid says,
Run away from home.
Running away from home, were you? Ain't got very far, have you?
My mum says I mustn't cross the road.
which is just, again, such wholesome dialogue. It's absolutely lovely. Del offers to help the kid by offering to tell his mom a lie that he asked him to let down the tyres on his car because
I wanted to see how long it would take my brother to pump them back up again.
And then Del takes the boy's hand to walk him home. And here we get another mention of Grandad. We get a joke about what the bogeyman looks like.
Yeah.
And the kid says,
Got funny all that. Wears pyjamas under his Mac.
It's not a bogeyman, that's my granddad.
and I just put, imagine how wonderful society would be if things like this could really happen without the fear of something bad happening.
Yeah.
And I wrote what you said earlier. I said, if it was a woman holding a kid's hand, a stranger's hand, and walking him home, would it be seen differently? And I think you're right, it would be.
But I'll just tell a personal story. Like a couple of weeks ago, my husband and I were walking back into the building with our dog, and 2 kids were lost in the building, which happens a lot because our building's like a maze. And they were in their swimming clothes because they were in the pool. Now, they obviously don't live in our building, but they were hanging out with a friend of a friend. But they'd gotten themselves locked into the building, couldn't get back out to the pool. So we were like, sure, we'll show you where the entrance to the pool is. So we walked them down, and then just as we were leading them out, their mom came in, and she didn't even thank us or anything. She looked so angry with us for being with her kid. And I was like,
yeah,
we just helped your kids. They could have just been lost in the building for hours. You didn't even say thank you. It's such a weird climate that we live in. Yeah, I would be so grateful if somebody helped. I mean, it's not like we're going to do anything to them.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? It's the same with what we were saying when we did the episode breakdown for Wanted. It all depends on your own experiences for how you view things, because if something bad, as you said, has happened, or you have had someone try and abduct your kid or something who you thought was just being nice, then you would feel very differently about it. And it is difficult to trust people in this day and age. And a lot of people who appear to have good intentions do not have good intentions in the end. So, it's understandable. I mean, I've got to say, the older I get, the more cynical I get, definitely, about this kind of stuff. And I always, think the worst of people, I guess, more than I do the good.
Yeah, it's too much true crime.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's true. I watch a lot of true crime.
We don't have children either, so it's like easy for us to say, oh, you should be more trusting. I think you've only got to trust the wrong person one time. And I don't trust anyone with my dog, so whatever that says.
So now we go to June's flat, or Junie's flat. I'm going to call her June all the way through this because I didn't write her down as Junie, but you all know it's the same person. So we see a corridor that looks just like where the Trotters live, and Dell rings the doorbell and hides from whoever might answer. Now, this was a risky move.
Yeah, that was a little bit risky, yeah.
I think, I don't really get why he hides unless he already knew that he knew the mom.
I think it's because he wanted the kid to have to just stand up for himself, and he's not going to be there to sort of back the kid up. It was like a little way of tricking the kid into ringing the bell, and then he's like, now you're at home and I'm done.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because he said he was going to tell the lie to the mom as well. So
yeah, but
the kid would have been there. And the mom started having to go at him straight away. So that would have been his cue to jump in and lie for the kid. But he was hiding, so it would look really dodgy and suspicious, like he almost followed the kid home and then was hiding. I don't know. I just think that's a really weird choice from a directing point of view to have Dell do that in that moment. So we meet June for the first time. Just from her voice, Dell can tell who she is. And I wonder if her voice hasn't changed in all those 19 years that he hasn't seen her. I mean, I, have friends that are that old as well, or people I maybe haven't seen for a long time. I don't think I'd be able to tell them just from the voice.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it a distinctive voice? I feel like she has quite a distinctive voice.
I mean, she does have a distinctive voice, but again, like in 19 years, her voice hasn't changed at all. I find that really hard to believe.
Maybe it was just an air of familiarity with her, like the way she speaks and stuff. He just knew it was her. It shows that they had a strong connection.
I don't know. I just found that a bit far-fetched. And then they catch up a little, and June is clearly trying to make herself look presentable for Dell. She adjusts her toff a little bit. And Dell seems to know that she's married when he says,
Yeah, hang about. What about the old man?
He's gone away for a bit.
Oh, gone away for a bit. Anyone we know?
And I put, is that referring to an affair?
Yes, like gone away for a bit. I think he thinks she's married because she's got a kid. That's why.
Wow. Again, totally different to this day and age. You'd never presume just because someone had a kid that they were married in this day and age. A tiny bit later in the flat, and Dell is comfy on the sofa, and the little boy has been put to bed. So she says that he's a handful to deal with.
I think he misses his dad.
Yeah, I used to miss my dad, till I learned to punch straight.
And I love when we get these moments of consistent character backgrounds. Dell mentioning his dad and how much he hates him. He bringing that up, whenever he can is great. And June says,
I'd have popped over and seen you, but I didn't think for 1 minute you'd still be living here. You used to say, this time next year I'll be a millionaire.
So again, we're establishing here that Dell has been saying this ever since he was a kid, basically. And it's, again, that lovely consistency of the character. And Dell asks June,
Hey, how long ago was it that, you and I, we stopped seeing each other?
Oh, must be 19 years now.
19 years?
It's longer than that, in fact.
all this information becomes very important to the plot later, so this is why I'm mentioning it now. And she says that they broke up in September 1965. Now, I know we're keeping tabs of dates and continuity and everything, so I think it's important to bring that up. And how old was Dell then, according to continuity, in 1965?
We put that he was born in 47, right? So he would have been 18?
18. Yeah, 18. Okay. That makes sense, I guess, for what they're saying, because they keep saying they're kids.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they're young adults, definitely. So, yeah. So Dell's about 18. So she says it was just after Albie Littlewood's funeral that they broke up. And again, Albie Littlewood mentioned again here. And they established that they were all close friends.
The famous four.
Yeah.
You and me, Albie, and... What was his girlfriend's name?
It was Deirdre.
And I asked, is that in Rock and Chips? And you said it is.
As far as I remember, I could be wrong about this. I don't think Albie and June are dating in Rock and Chips. Like, they might be. I just know Albie's in Rock and Chips and so is June. But I don't remember.
Well, technically, they were doing it behind Dell's back, so maybe it didn't highlight that in Rock and Chips.
Well, that's
anyway.
right. I think the only way that June is mentioned is as a love interest for Dell at that point. And Albie is his friend. So, yeah, they didn't get very far down the timeline. But Albie was written in, so I'm guessing they were planning to write him out, yeah.
They were planning to do that, yeah. So, yeah, we find out that Albie died because he took...
And a shortcut across the railway line.
...when going to meet Dell. And June asks about Rodney.
What you mean, mixed up?
No, he's thick and fruity.
And then she asks about Grandad. So our third reference for Grandad so far in the episode. And Del just says,
Oh, Grandad, well, he's not too fit at the moment. He's laid up in dock.
and I've got to say, there's something heavy about David Jason's voice, even when he delivers that line.
Yes.
I can't explain it, but there's something there, because obviously he would have been grieving in real life for Lennard Pearce here, and try as you might, any actor in the world, you're going to sometimes be affected by things going on in your own life, and it'll come through in your performance. And a lot of the time it's for the better, because you can use the pain of a situation in your real life and put it into your acting performance. And I just think that line, he sounds heavy.
Yeah.
So now we find out that Del was engaged to June, and she still has the ring. So I guess Del did usually let women he proposed to keep the ring, but not Heather.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad about.
Well, we talked about that in Diamonds of a Heather, didn't we? And you said it was weird,
exactly.
and I said, no, that's kind of what he used to do. He used to let them keep it because he just got 5 for £1 or something in Rock and Chip. So yes, he did used to let women keep the ring, so she still had it. But assuming she doesn't, because she's like, you don't want it back, do you?
Yeah, I assume maybe she sold it or something for some money. I don't know. Yeah, but I just thought that was interesting. A bit of a reference there to Del's many engagements.
Yeah.
And Del moves in for the kill with June, and she, unlike most of the women we've seen Del hit on thus far, also seems to want him.
Don't worry, you leave it to me, all right?
Oh, Del. Oh.
Yes, that noise that she makes is very, she clearly wants a bit of Del. June goes to answer the door, and she tells Del to help himself to a drink, to which Del replies,
Thanks, Junie.
and this next part is so funny, because Rodney comes into the flat and is completely oblivious to Del being there. And the first thing he does is he checks how squishy the sofa arm is.
Yes.
Which I think is really funny.
Yeah, I'll read what it says in the script if it helps you to.
Yeah,
So
go
it
on.
says
Yeah.
from the script, Rodney, unaware of Del's presence, wanders around getting the feel of the place. He smiles licentiously as he tests the softness of the settee. Del sees all this. Rodney, believing himself to be alone, starts to play Joe Cool in that optimistic way of someone who will soon be getting their end away. He studies himself in the mirror and has a very confident air. So that's what it said in the script.
Brilliant.
So I think he
did
pulled
that
that off
brilliantly.
really well, didn't he? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, I just love that that's the first thing you did, like squeeze the arm. It's like, why the arm and not the sofa itself? Like just where the head was going to be. That's what you want to know about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously then he starts checking himself out in the mirror, which is, again, very funny, and undoes his top button. Then when he goes to do it back up, Del appears behind him as he's looking down. And I actually love the fact that Rodney genuinely believes that he's hallucinating at first.
Yeah.
And he sort of like shakes his head and closes his eyes.
It's like Denzel in Hullenbeck.
Yes, exactly. But I just put, couldn't he smell the cigar smoke? Because that would have been a dead
The
giveaway.
smoke would have been going all over him as well, like in front of him and behind
that
him.
would have been the giveaway that he wasn't hallucinating, exactly. So finally he turns to see Del, and Del says,
You little plonker.
and Rodney thinks Del is after Debbie, but he explains it's her mom that he knows.
When'd you meet her then?
It's 1964.
Well, you've only just come out to see her.
So just after Rodney says,
Stone me, though. You've been engaged more times than a switchboard, haven't you?
there is a very noticeable shadow of a crew member on the door that moves. I don't know if you ever noticed this,
no,
because I didn't until I watched it through this time. Anyone can check that. So Rodney says that line, and then you can see the shadow on the door, on the yellow door in the background. It moves. I'm pretty sure it's a crew member moving around. It's not coming from either of the actors. So yeah, just a little thing I noticed there. Little continuity issue. And then June comes back in, and Del tells her that it's Rodney standing there in front of her, and she says,
The last time I saw you, you were about that high. How old was he, Del?
Then about 2.5.
again, making jokes about how tall Rodney is and that he's always been very tall, which is great. And Rodney is trying to make a good impression with June, but Del is ruining it, as always.
I was thinking, actually, if you two wanted to go out and, chat about old times and all that, well, I'm sure me and Debbie wouldn't mind babysitting.
What do you think, Del?
I daren't tell you what I think, Junie.
Del kindly agrees to go out, and as they are leaving, Debbie comes out of her room, and Del notices her dressing gown is slightly open.
Yeah. Boy, I'd do that up if I was you. You get a cold on your chest.
Oi, it's Debbie's house, she can do what she likes.
And Rodney offers her brandy, and Del takes one last stab at ruining Rodney's date.
He's celebrating, isn't he?
Celebrating what?
Oh, hasn't he told you? He's just heard from the clinic he's got an all clear.
Which I believe is referring to AIDS.
I think just STDs in general, but yeah.
Just STDs in general, because I know, like, when the AIDS epidemic started, well, I don't know, but I vaguely heard this, they sort of, everyone had to go and get tested, right?
That I do not know anything about that, but I think that his reference is just in general, to being clear of an STD, or I don't know.
Right.
Maybe it was specifically AIDS. You could be right.
So if anyone knows anything about that, please let us know, because I don't know if that was referring to the AIDS epidemic or if it was referring to STDs in general. So yeah. Any notes on that scene, dude?
Yeah, I got a few things. So Junie was obviously played by Diane Langton. She's a well-known actress for this show, but other stuff. She actually just passed away this year, January 2025. She had a really major role in Hollyoaks as well as many other credits. People will know her from tons of stuff. She's in Carry On England. Yeah, some Carry On movies, EastEnders, Heartbeat. She was a pretty big part in a show from the 70s called The Rag Trade. Now, we know she comes back in Only Fools and Horses, and obviously a much less popular episode, but I think many will agree that she's probably a breath of fresh air in a Royal Flush, because she's so great.
Yes, I agree.
So June's flat is actually the same set of the Trotter flats, just redressed. So they said it would be completely believable because they live on the same estate, same style apartments and stuff, so which is true. So you mentioned that we added a couple of things to our continuity timeline here. Yeah, so Albie Littlewood died in September 1965, and that's when Del and June broke up. So if we go off the timeline from Thicker Than Water, that means Rodney would have been 5 at the time. They met in 1964. So I added all that stuff to the continuity timeline.
Yeah.
I do feel like that can't be right based on what they were going to do in Rock and Chips, because Rodney's only born as a baby in Rock and Chips. So yeah.
And Rodney also said, I was the 5-year-old standing in the graveyard wondering what the hole in the ground was for, implying that his mom died when he was 5.
Yeah, but she did die in 1965, didn't she? So that does make sense.
So she died when Del was 18.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's right. But
even though his 16th birthday, Del's dad left.
Yes. However, but so that's already a continuity error that we mentioned.
Yeah.
But she can't, if Rodney was a baby in Rock and Chips when June and Albie were around and they were 18, he can't have been 5.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a few little issues there, but we'll discuss that more in the end of the series wrap. And then I wrote, it's really nice to see that Del does agree to take June out at the end of the scene, but he still manages to get that little dig in. So like you mentioned earlier, it's kind of another callback to Slowbuster Chingford. The idea of him dating Rodney's girlfriend, and then that little sabotage as he leaves the room, which is exactly what he does with Janice in Slowbuster Chingford. That is all I had.
So now we go to the Nags Head, and June and Del are at a table, and Del asks...
No, it's just I always wondered why it was that you left so suddenly like that, without a letter or a word, nothing.
And June is very dismissive. So we get some more backstory here about June's husband, and we find out that...
It's not Debbie's father.
And that it's Debbie's birthday next week. So Del goes to the bar to get more drinks to talk to Trigger, Mickey, and Maureen. And Maureen, I don't think we've met her before, have we?
No, this is her first episode. So Nuala Conwell as Maureen. She's in 5 episodes total. One of them is in series 5. Yeah.
She's one of my favourites in all of Only Fools and Horses. My favourite scene is when she's getting the tickets, getting the money out of Del's pockets for the tickets. I think it's in Watching the Girls Go By.
Right, yeah.
So now we get a very famous exchange between Del and Mickey.
I'm learning Aikido.
Really? Oh, go on then, say something.
I had a fight with 5 blokes last night.
What was it, a pillar fight? Look. That ain't got a mark on you, son.
Well, that's because I wiped them all out with Aikido.
Can you smell that? What is that? Sheep, is it? It's cows? No, I know what it is. It's bullshit.
This quote is like gold dust. I use this in my regular life all the time to people that have never watched Only Fools and Horses, and they always laugh at it. They don't know where it's from, obviously, but I always use this, even when I'm teaching. Sometimes I don't say bullshit, obviously. If I say, can you smell that? That's poo. And they all laugh, like the kids and stuff. So it's just a wonderful delivery, and the punchline is absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I love that joke. It's great.
Well, do you remember how we mentioned in the introduction episode, I think, about how this gets cut in a strange way sometimes? They just cut the punchline, but they leave all the sniffing part in. So it is like, just either cut it out completely or leave it in. Because it's very weird the way they leave the sniffing part in, but then it just cuts straight to them talking again. Like, it makes no sense.
Oh yeah, I think the way they hack up all the episodes for modern viewing is just crazy. Some of the things that they leave and some of the things they cut, there's no rhyme or reason.
Yeah.
But this is the first time I think we see Del and Mickey interact without Rodney around.
Yeah.
So every time so far that Mickey Pearce has been mentioned, he's always been in relation to Rodney. He's either been with Rodney or he's been mentioned by Rodney. And this is the first time we just see him talking just to Del. So that's kind of nice that we see like a little bit of a friendship almost, I guess, between them. Like they're acquaintances and they'll have a chat at the bar, which is nice. And Maureen asks where Rodney is. And Del says he's with Debbie. And Mickey says,
I mean, she's just a kid, isn't she? She's 19 next week now. So. Yeah.
And I just put heavy exposition going on in this scene.
Yeah, 19. 19.
It's been 19 years now. Like, yeah, it was just, they can't hammer it home anymore if they tried. But it's okay. I guess we need to know this.
They should have made her 20 because, in life, you never say, oh, that was 19 years ago. You always round up. Like, how often do people do that?
Yeah, that's true. And actually, they even said 19 and a half years ago as well. So it's really specific. Yeah, like so it makes sense that he thinks that she's... But I said, this is when the penny drops for Del.
19 and a half years ago, me and Debbie's mum were...
And Maureen and Mickey act like they don't understand what Del's talking about. But I think it's pretty obvious when Del says that and they've just mentioned 19 what he's talking about.
It is funny how dumb they both are. They're like, what are you talking about, Del?
Talking about...
He just explained it completely. What do you need me to say? We were fucking 19 and a half years ago.
And we may have had a child who's 19 now. Yeah, exactly. So Del tells June, he goes back over to June and he tells her,
Junie, I know why you left so suddenly all them years ago.
And June mistakes what Del is referencing. So it sounds like he's right about Debbie being his daughter. And Del rushes to the loo where Trigger is.
Love Trigger.
And I put the Nags Head loo looks so rank. So I put, the pub doesn't look that bad, but the loo is disgusting.
Loos are always bad.
No, but that loo is like proper gross. You'd think that they'd done a little bit with it, like not as horrible as it is in this, but... And Del is pacing outside the loo and we get this great Trigger moment here, which I think really reminds me of all the later Trigger moments that we really love.
Don't know what I'm going to do. I just don't know what I'm going to do.
Well, Del, leave it to me. Come on, hurry up. We've got an emergency out here.
Oh, it's so nice how Trigger always tries to help.
I know, it's lovely. And obviously this is just, again, Trigger's joke. It doesn't have to be related to anything in the episode. It's just a standout Trigger joke, but that misunderstanding things is just brilliant. So Del tells Trigger that he thinks he's Debbie's father. And Trigger responds,
but she's a pretty girl.
And I think Debbie looks like David Jason. I think they cast her really well.
Yeah.
I would buy her as his kid. Like, she's got black hair and quite attractive.
That's what Sullivan said, yeah.
I think David Jason's handsome as well, so... And then Trigger says...
Yeah, the little cow shortchanged me the other day.
That is it then, isn't it?
So I think it's interesting that Del openly admitting here that he cheats people.
Yeah.
And that's why his daughter's bound to. And then Del gets another penny drop.
God knows what Grandad and Rodney are going to say when they... Rodney.
At which point Del runs out of the toilet. So that's all I had for that scene. Any notes you want to add, dude?
I really like the bit where he says...
Didn't June say nothing to you at the time?
No, not a dicky bird.
You sure, Del?
Well, I would have remembered something like that, Trick, wouldn't I?
So now we're back at June's flat again. Rodney and Debbie are sitting in the dark, sharing the brandy that Rodney brought over that he actually stole from Del. And they are about to kiss when Del bursts in.
Put her down, Rodney!
Switching on all the lights. And June is apparently now angry with Del. This is something I have never understood. I'm not sure what justification she would have for this, because whether Del is Debbie's father or she cheated with Alfie Littlewood, she is the one in the wrong.
Yeah, I think she's just angry because of the way he's acting, because he probably dragged them out the pub and ran home, and yeah.
Well, yeah, so this is what I wrote. I said, what do we think the conversation between Del and June was from Del leaving the toilet to her flat? Because they have obviously talked about this thing that Del knows. And did Del keep it super cryptic all the way, just going, I know about it, about it. Like, surely he would have asked in that walking back from the pub bit about Debbie being his kid.
Yeah, also, like, the fact that June wasn't concerned about Rodney hooking up with Debbie, doesn't that sort of show that he can't be her uncle?
Exactly.
But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. You say that's obviously a continuity thing, but as you said, this episode, it was thrown together a little bit quicker. So maybe some of those little wrinkles weren't able to be ironed out, which is fine. June leaves Debbie, Rodney, and Del alone in the living room. And Del starts behaving very strangely towards Debbie.
I'll get you a nice present, shall I? dear.
Rodney and Debbie are obviously annoyed with Del here and a little bit freaked out. And we get some great physical comedy here when they're leaving, where Del slams the door into Rodney when he opens it, which is really funny. And again, Nick Lyndhurst's face always sells it for me at these moments. He looks so pissed off. And also when Del grabs Rodney as he's about to kiss Debbie goodnight.
Night, Debs.
Good night.
Come on, Rodney!
Earlier, Rodney said that Debbie and he had been seeing each other for a while, or they'd been seeing each other. So I would have assumed that they've already kissed, if not done other stuff as well at this point. So their line's already been crossed. If Debbie was Del's kid, they've probably already kissed at least. So
it's
I
true.
guess they probably haven't slept together because this was Rodney saying, thought it was mine tonight.
Yeah.
Like he thought that he was going to sleep with her that night. But yeah, surely they have already kissed as well before the attempted kiss on the couch. So yeah, I don't know. I just think, it's already too late, as you said. Any other notes on that scene?
Yeah, I didn't write this down, but it just popped into my head that this episode is another great example of the fatherly nature of Del's character, because first of all, he's very fatherly towards little, what's his name, Jamie in the beginning. And then he's so happy and proud in many ways when he finds out Debbie is his kid, or so he thinks.
Yes.
He's different. Like, he looks so happy to know and proud. Like, he wants to be a dad. There's definitely no denying it. And
I've mentioned that a couple of times in the coming to scenes about he seems happy with this news. I agree with you. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's all I have for that one.
Okay, cool. So now we actually go to the Trotter flat for the first time in the episode. And I guess it makes sense they didn't want to spend much time there with Grandad not being there. It probably would have been quite horrible for the viewers to be reminded that he wasn't there for the whole of this episode.
Yes.
So just this one very short scene in the flat. And Rodney's still furious with Del, and he assumes Del is after Debbie. Again, not surprising after Janice and a slow rush to Chingford. Who knows how many of the times Del has done that to Rodney and tried to steal a girl from him.
Yeah.
And Rodney says,
matter of fact, we're thinking of getting engaged.
So Del says that he can't because he's too young. And Rodney rightly points out,
I'm 24, Del. By the time you was my age, you've been engaged to every bird this side of the water.
He's still 24.
He's still 24.
Rodney is in Narnia or something. I don't know.
No, he's Peter Pan. He doesn't age. Del breaks the news that Debbie is his daughter at this point. And I've got to say, I do feel pretty sorry for Rodney here.
Yeah, me too.
Because he really, imagine that situation. If that was the case in real life, it would just be awful. As you said, Del seems pretty chuffed with the news. Rodney's devastated, but Del seems chuffed. And Rodney tries to think of ways that Del could be wrong. And then we get this great line.
Well, then she was premature.
Premature? She'd have to have been bloody instant, Rodney.
And Rodney also points out,
she's a pretty girl.
Like Trigger said. But this observation makes Del beam with pride this time. And he even says,
I can see Mum in her.
Which, again, because we know how much Del idolises his mom, this is obviously, it means a lot to Del that she's his daughter.
Yeah.
And Rodney's upset that Debbie is his niece. And we get a classic mix-up of the words joke here from Del, which I'm pretty sure has been plagiarised to death since... I don't know if any of us were the first to do this joke.
This sort of thing, it ain't allowed. It's incense.
I know that, again, Coronation Street, I know they've done that joke a few times. When Frankie and Jamie Baldwin hooked up, Fizz said incense instead of incest.
Oh, she did.
When she said the joke, yeah. So I don't know if I'm sure I feel like this joke has been used a lot of times. And I don't know if Only Fools and Horses were the first ones to do it, so maybe people can let us know in the comments down below. But I'm sure that has been used a lot when people have talked about incest.
Yeah, I mean, it gets a really big laugh from the audience.
Oh, yeah, it's brilliant. It's a great play on words. And again, the straight face of David Jason and sort of the face palming of Nick Lyndhurst in that moment is also just fantastic. And then Del runs through how confusing it would all be.
Yeah.
With the ending of the line.
Lord knows what, that would have made Grandad the fairy godmother.
Again, using sort of Grandad in a joke that absolutely is appropriate for him. I feel like it's a tribute to Lennard Pearce, you know.
In more ways than one, they kept him alive in this episode. Not just his character in the background, but his memory. They mention his hat. They make fun of him. They call him moaning old git. Like, they keep him alive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe to make it easier for themselves, or to give him a send off in a way that his memory is still there, even though we, the audience, and they know that Lennard Pearce is gone. It's got that poignant kind of air to it.
Yeah, completely agree. It's lovely. It's lovely the way that they drop things in about Grandad in this episode.
Yeah.
And Rodney insists that Del find out that he's definitely Debbie's dad, which, to be frank, Del should have already done by now before he's told Rodney about this.
Right, but it's quite hard to do that in those days. It wasn't quite as quick and easy, but yeah.
Well, again, on that walk back from the pub might have been a good chance to do it. But
He should have spoken to June, yeah. That's right.
yes, before he got telling Rodney that his relationship with Debbie was over, that might have been good to find out from Junie first if it was absolutely sure.
Yeah, because it does seem like Debbie really likes him.
Until the next scene, it doesn't.
Well, yes, that's right. At this point in the episode, she looks really sad when Dell drags Rodney away.
Any other notes on that scene?
No, just that the Trotter flat in this scene looks very bare, clean and tidy. And I think that's, like you said, it's the only scene in the flat. So because it was redressed for June's flat, they probably just ripped down all the decorations really quickly.
Oh, when you just said that then, it made me think of Grandad's quote in the second time around. No, clean and tidy.
Yeah. Aw. Yeah, so that's that reason.
Lennard Pearce's spirit is alive in our podcast as well.
Yeah, it definitely is. And then I really like the line where Rodney says,
Del, I've just met the first girl in my life who really means something to me, and it turns out to be my bloody niece!
Nick Lennard has this fantastic way of delivering lines with this pain in his voice, but it's still really funny. It's so good.
yeah.
Now we go to the final scene in the episode. We're back at June's flat, and June is still angry with Del. Mm-hmm. Again, I have to ask why. So Del wants to see Debbie, and he again tells June that he knows. And finally, he says what he knows.
Tell her that I am her father.
And June's reaction here is one of pity, and she has now a very apologetic tone. So why wouldn't she have been apologetic for sleeping with Albie Littlewood if that was what she thought he knew? But anyway. So Del seems pretty disappointed that he isn't Debbie's father here. Again, you see his face drop, his tone in his voice, everything change. But then the truth comes out.
If I'm not her father, then who is?
Albie Littlewood.
Albie Littlewood?
And this news definitely shocks Del.
How did he do it to me? We was blood brothers.
Again, no mention of it before this, but they were blood brothers.
Or since.
Or since, exactly. So, just for this episode. And June tries to justify everything by saying,
We were just kids. We were just playing games.
and she finally lifts the burden of guilt on Del by saying he was coming to meet her the night he died instead of Del.
Yeah.
But then Del gets his own back, in a manner of speaking.
I was round at his bird, Deirdre's place.
You were with Deirdre?
It's all right, June. We were only playing games.
So June is such a hypocrite to be upset with Del here. But I guess that's the joke.
Yeah.
And Debbie arrives home with Mickey in tow. And Del immediately sets out to embarrass Mickey here. You see his face change, like he's got a plan that he wants to execute, or he wants to execute Mickey. And I'd imagine it's partly for fun, but partly looking out for Rodney as well, because Debbie's supposed to be seeing Rodney. So in essence, like Mickey and Debbie are cheating on Rodney here. So I think that's part of the reason that Del kind of, tries to humiliate him a bit. And as Del is leaving, he says,
Make sure you don't take the shortcut across the railway line.
Which I wonder, is that meant to imply that Mickey is cheating on his friend Rodney with Debbie? Is that what it is? Like it's a reference like they're in the same situation, and that's why Mickey shouldn't take the shortcut when he goes to sneak off to see Debbie?
I've never thought about that. I always just thought it was just a way of like wrapping up the episode and referring back to
I think it is. I think it's like, I mean, it could be done because obviously it's a dig at June, but like I just wondered if that was why he said it to Mickey, like it had that double meaning.
I think, because Mickey's playing games. We were just kids. We were just playing games. So he's playing games like he was when he was that age.
Yeah, because if like Mickey had a girlfriend and Rodney then like the four of them hung out, then Mickey was trying to see Debbie, then it would be the same situation, right? That's why I thought it might be that. But yeah, maybe I'm overthinking it. So yeah, that was everything I had for the episode. Anything else you want to add, dude?
Yeah, the only quick notes I had on that scene was, Del, the acting from David Jason, where with the, how he looks, just the expression on his face when he says, "Tell her I'm her father," that smile. He's so, it's such a mixture of pride and happiness and like kind of sadness at the same time, like everything. Yeah. And then like when he finds out she's not his daughter, he does go back to his old kind of prankster self. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of emotion there behind this whole storyline. And he would have been a great father, and he would have stepped in and become a good dad to Debbie.
Yeah. You would have got her a nice gold watch.
Yeah.
No rubbish.
But yeah, we see this We always see this theme with Del. He's a good dad. Another note I had is that if June was sleeping with Del and Albie at the same time, then she might not actually know who Debbie's father is without taking a paternity test. So that's another little plot hole, which is understandable because it was written so quickly. Plus, she does look like Del. But Albie Littlewood also has dark hair in Rock and Chips. So,
okay. Yeah, because we don't know what Albie Littlewood looks like in this episode. Maybe he looks even more like Debbie.
It was for the best, we see, that Rodney didn't stay with Debbie because she obviously wasn't taking her fling with Rodney very seriously, bringing back Mickey the very next night. Another classic Mickey Pearce being a dick moment. Bad friend. And then finally, we see now the illustrated credits have gone away. As we discussed, they only were there for Series 3, even though everyone thinks they're there for longer, they're not.
They were clearly the best credits because everyone remembers them.
Yeah.
Well, no, I suppose the most famous ones are the cigar stickers ones, aren't they?
Maybe, but that might be just because of the opening credits. So this is still, it still has the black and white look, so that's what everyone really remembers, but everyone thinks, like, if you ask most people, they would be like, yeah, it's got those little pictures. Yeah, those are only there for Series 3. So by now they have gone. And that was all I had.
All right, so shall we move on to our awards segment?
And guess what? He's only one.
So, as always, we have 3 awards to announce this week, and we will start with Plonker of the Week.
You little plonker.
For Plonker of the Week, we will each nominate a plonker, and then we'll discuss who wins. So, Heather, who have you nominated for your Plonker of the Week?
My plonker is June.
Oh.
Because she wasn't honest with Del the moment that he said he knew what happened all those years ago. Like, she should have openly talked to him about it. It's whether, obviously he thought it was that he was Debbie's father, but she knew that she cheated on him all those years ago and she'd held on to that. And obviously the fact that she let Del carry that guilt on his shoulders that his friend died because he was coming to see Del, taking the shortcut, and actually it was her, like letting someone think that they were the one responsible for someone's death all these years when it was really you. I think that makes you a bit of a plonker.
It's true. I think in this episode, I do think it was difficult because I know we've always said plonker's not asshole behavior, it's stupid behavior. I don't think anybody is really stupid in this episode. I wrote Mickey Pearce.
Mickey. I knew you were going to say that.
But I did, when you said June, I think, June is probably the villain in this episode if anyone had to be chosen. She's so nice, so bubbly, and she's a strong woman and everything, but at the same time there is no reason why she should have let Del believe all those years that he's responsible for the death of his friend. And then also the way that she acts when he is trying to see, let's talk this out, is very
exactly
bad. So I'll go with your choice of June. Because Mickey's barely in the episode, and he's had the plonker for this reason before as well.
Mickey's character is a plonker. So he's never not a plonker. This is the problem with Mickey.
Yes, that is the problem.
Okay, so June is the plonker of the week.
Oh, you dirty little toe rag.
So this week, Heather will award Best Line of the episode, and I, Jenny, will award Best Moment of the episode. So, dude, what have you chosen for Best Line this week?
I think there's only one I can choose, and it's the one I made a big deal about earlier, is the sheep. It's cows. No, I know what it is. It's bullshit.
Yeah, that's a classic.
That is just a fantastic line. But I do have an honourable mention, which is, hurry up, we've got an emergency out here.
Yeah. I suppose that only works as a visual, though. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. But I think that's brilliant. But the bullshit line is my favourite line of the episode. How about you, dude? Any honourable mentions?
I mean, I feel like this episode has a lot of really good lines in it, so it is really tricky. Because I had written down a couple of lines that I really loved throughout, which which I have said as we've been going through. But so like Stone Me, Del, you've been engaged more times than a switchboard, didn't you? And your mother-in-law would have been your aunt. Yeah, like all of those. So there's lots of good ones. But the bullshit line is probably the one that people would remember the most. So we'll go ahead with that one.
Yes.
And then
okay, lovely.
For me,
and then best moment for you, dude. What have you chosen?
I chose just the scene of Del watching Rodney going around the apartment and then creeping up behind him in the mirror. I think that for me is the standout moment of the episode. Did you?
Yes,
do you have?
I agree with you.
Have any other that you wrote down, or?
I wrote down the part where it's very similar. Del slamming the door into Rodney and then dragging Rodney away. Come on, Rodney! Like that little sequence there where Del leaves is very funny. But I agree with you. The part where Del's creeping around in the background and Rodney's making a fool of himself.
It's actually quite a lot of good physical comedy in this episode, so pretty good one. If there's nothing else, then drink up, we're leaving.
So that about wraps it up for this week. We thank you so much for joining us, and we hope very much that you're enjoying the podcast. And we'd love more subscribers. And we see that 60% of our viewers on YouTube aren't subscribed. So if you are listening, please subscribe. And of course, tell your mates if you think they might enjoy the podcast as well. And we release a new episode every Saturday at 6 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. So if you're up early and you want to listen as soon as we drop the podcast, please do that. So join us next week when we'll be discussing Series 4, Episode 2, Strained Relations. Until then... Au revoir, listeners. If you like what you hear and want to contact us, you can email us at longlivehooky street podcast@gmail.com. All one word, no spaces. Bonjour.